You wake before dawn, long before the town bells begin their heavy ringing, and for a moment you forget who you are. The straw mattress is stiff, and the cold air has crept in through every crack of the shutters. For a heartbeat, you feel like any other person in this medieval town, a worker, a servant, someone with simple labor ahead. But then you sit up, and the weight of your duties returns to you like the settling of iron chains. You are an officer of justice, appointed by the town council and approved by the Lord's magistrate. People call you a torturer, though they rarely say the word aloud. In the eyes of the law, your duty is to extract truth, enforce order, and ensure confessions when the court demands them. In your own eyes, your role is far heavier, tangled in moral knots you never predicted when you first stepped into this profession years ago. You dress slowly, fastening your thick leather coat, not because you expect to need protection, but because it has become part of the role. People imagine your work to be shadowed, brutal, and monstrous, and the garment helps maintain that illusion. Fear, after all, is a kind of tool, one that often prevents you from having to use any others. You step outside. The street is quiet at this hour, dusted with the faint remains of last night's chimney smoke. Cats slink through the alleys, searching for scraps. You walk to the small stone building beside the courthouse, the chamber where you conduct your duties. The building sits slightly apart from the busier market streets, not hidden, but not celebrated either, as though the town itself prefers not to look directly at it. When you unlock the heavy wooden door, the hinges creak softly. Subscribe and put your like, cause why not? The chamber is dim, lit only by the early sliver of sunlight coming through a high window. The air smells of wood, iron, and old dust. Despite the grim reputation of the place, you keep it organized, even meticulously clean. You learned long ago that order reduces panicures and others. Before long, the bailiff arrives, nods to you, and hands you the written order for the day. A merchant has accused his competitor of tampering with goods and spreading rumors. According to the council, both men presented conflicting testimonies, and neither has reliable witnesses. As usual in cases like this, the court has ordered questioning under pressure, though they leave the definition of that pressure to you. It is a part of the system. In a world without reliable evidence, no printing presses for documentation, and no forensic knowledge, the burden of truth often falls onto human voices under stress. You never asked for the professional authority to draw truth from people. You simply inherited the role when the previous master retired, and your youth combined with your calm demeanor convinced the council you were suited for it. Since then, you have lived with the consequences of their decision. The accused man, a thin baker known around the marketplace, is brought in by guards. His eyes dart around the room, though nothing in it is particularly fearsome. He trembles anyway, and you feel a familiar tightness in your chest. You have seen hardened criminals stand here with stoic confidence, and you have seen ordinary people crumble at the sight of a chair and a table. You begin in the same way you always do, with conversation. Contrary to the legends people tell, brutality is not your first method. Your true work involves studying voices, reading posture, noticing contradictions. You speak gently, asking him to recount what happened, asking where he was on the morning of the alleged incident. Your voice is steady, practiced. The guards stand still, serving as reminders of the authority in the room. He insists he is innocent. His words tremble but stay consistent. He explains that the merchant accusing him has always been jealous of his rising success. You listen, weighing each detail in your mind. You have heard lies spoken with sincerity before, and you have heard truth spoken in panic. Distinguishing them is not a skill anyone teaches you, it is one you learn through years of hearing human fear up close. You ask questions for what feels like a long time, enough that the guards shift their feet. Sometimes the simple act of being questioned thoroughly reveals fractures in a false story, but here, every answer remains steady. You dismiss the guards for a moment and speak to the baker one-on-one, trying to reach some quiet corner of his honesty or guilt. His words do not change. After the questioning ends, the magistrate reviews your report. The court cannot rely solely on your intuition, even though it quietly depends on your judgment. They order another session later in the day, this time including what they call measured pressure. You feel the phrase launch under your ribs. It is vague on purpose. It gives you broad authority and an equally broad burden. You return to your chamber alone, and for a few minutes you sit in silence, breathing through the uneasy feeling that always comes before such sessions. Though you rarely resort to more severe methods, even the mildest forms of medieval pressure, coercive questioning, prolonged discomfort, controlled intimidation leave you uneasy. You tell yourself that your restraint protects people from worse fates. You tell yourself you are preventing cruelty, not causing it. Sometimes you believe that. When the accused is brought back, he looks even more frightened than before. You remind him, calmly, that the court requires clarity. You explain that cooperation now can resolve the case quickly and possibly save him from harsher consequences if the counsel believes he is withholding the truth. Even as you speak, you feel the uncomfortable power in your words. This job constantly forces you to walk a boundary between justice and coercion, and you never feel entirely clean on either side. You ask him the questions again, letting the silence stretch longer this time. You allow the natural pressure of uncertainty to settle around him. You strike the table once, not violently, just enough to startle him and watch his reaction. He gasps, but his answers do not change. You study his face. Even under fear, his expression carries the weary persistence of someone with little left to lose except his truth. The hours pass slowly. You take breaks to avoid letting frustration cloud your judgment. You pace outside for a moment, breathe the outdoor air, and try to gather your thoughts. People assume torturers enjoy their authority, but you often feel more like a reluctant witness to the faults of the legal system. If truth were easier to prove, your profession might not exist at all. Eventually, the magistrate calls for the closing of the session. After reviewing your notes and the accused man's consistent responses, the court rules in his favor. The merchant who accused him is fined for making unproven claims. The baker is released, shaky but unharmed, muttering his gratitude as he exits the courthouse. You nod to him, knowing you may never see him again, but hoping he finds his footing after the ordeal. When the door shuts behind him, the tension drains from your shoulders. You return to your chamber to tidy everything, putting away the chair, closing the shutters, sweeping the floor. You do these small tasks deliberately. They help separate one case from the next, preventing the shadows of previous days from clinging to you. As afternoon light filters into the streets, you leave the building and walk through the busy market. Vendors call out prices, children weave between carts, and the smell of baked bread and warm spices fills the air. Few people meet your eyes directly. They recognize you and quickly look away, not out of hatred, but out of uneasy respect. You are part of their world, necessary but quietly feared, like a storm they hope never reaches their homes. You buy a loaf of bread and sit by the fountain in the square, listening to the chatter of townsfolk. Conversations float around you like drifting leaves, a wedding plan for next month, the rumor of a distant war, the poor harvest in a nearby village. These moments remind you that outside your chamber, life remains vibrant and ordinary. People laugh, love, argue, and dream. The justice system may shape their lives, but it does not define them. As evening approaches, you walk the path back home. Your house is simple wooden beams, a small hearth, a modest table. You light a candle, sit down, and try to let the day dissolve from your mind. But the thoughts remain, as they always do. You wonder how many innocent people have once felt terror in your presence. You wonder whether your restraint truly helps, or whether you are fooling yourself to soften the weight of the role. You take out the old ledger you keep hidden under your bed. In it, you write notes not about procedures or confessions, but about the human details you never share with the court. The trembling in someone's hands, the steadiness of their gaze, the prayers they whisper when they think you cannot hear. You write about the baker today, noting your belief in his honesty. In the margins, you write a quiet hope that your judgment spared him from something worse. You close the ledger and sit quietly, listening to the fire crackle. This profession shapes people in unspoken ways. Some become hardened, convinced that harshness is the only path to order. Some crumble under the burden and leave the profession entirely. You have become something in between, a cautious observer, wary of your own authority, compelled to use as little force as possible in a world that expects far more. As the moon rises outside your window, you reflect on your place within this medieval society. You are neither hero nor villain. You are a part of the machinery that keeps the fragile structure of justice functioning, flawed though it may be. And you know that tomorrow may bring another case, another trembling voice, another test of your own restraint. You extinguish the candle and lie down, staring into the darkness. You breathe slowly, letting the quiet settle around you. The world outside your door sleeps, unaware of the questions that haunt you at night. You hope, as you do every night, that the morning will bring cases that require only words, only patience, only the gentlest form of truth-seeking. And you hope that someday, long after your life has passed, the world will find a way to seek justice without fear so that someone like you will no longer be needed. Eventually, your eyes close, the chamber, the court, the weight of your title, all of it fades into the shadows. For now, in the stillness of night, you are just a person trying to rest before another day in a profession that the world both relies upon and quietly dreads. And as sleep finally comes, you remind yourself of the one truth you cling to. Even within a role built from fear and authority, you still have the power to choose restraint, to choose compassion, and to choose a version of justice that harms as little as possible.